I'm gonna be talking about small groups today. So yeah, just I'm gonna go through, just like the last video. I'm just gonna go through my paper, and then I'm just gonna, kind of give some, just talk about it a little bit. Just go through it. So yeah, here we go. So churches in today's world are getting bigger and bigger. I mean, ministries are buying stadiums and filling them with loads of people. So now I'm not saying big churches are bad or they're evil or not godly or anything like that at all. I'm saying all I'm saying is that it is easy to get lost in the shuffle of a big church. People come and go, and nobody notices that people are, and nobody notices that, and people are not building strong, godly relationships as they should in the church, um, as they should be when they come to church. People should be building lasting relationships. It should be a community where people are connecting and growing stronger in the relationship with God and the relationship with each other. So really, how do we fight that problem? How do we fight these problems where people are just coming and going and no one is noticing them? No one is coming. No one is connecting with them. No one is bringing them in. No one is inviting them into the group or anything like that. No one is making um, no one is really noticing people as they just come and go, and they're being left. And they're being left alone. Um, so how do we fight that problem of people, not getting connected or not feeling welcome or not feeling part of the family or, not feeling like they matter? And how do we get, also, the problem of people not feeling like they can't get involved? Like, so how do we address that issue? Like, how do we, make it so where if we have a big church or like, not, not necessarily just big church, but church in general, like how do we, what is the thing that we can do in the church that can, give people a place to connect, give people a place to, know people on a more intimate level, know people better, and feel like they're part of the family of the church and feel like they're part of God's family and feel like they belong, and then feel how, a place where they can get involved and where they can get involved with these people. So I say one of the most popular ways, one of the most effective ways, I think, is to develop a strong small group ministry. And small group ministries can be anything. However, they're usually centered, obviously around Bible studies and stuff like that, and Bible studies and teaching. But I think it could be much more broader than that, not so narrow. Yes, there should be a biblical center of it, and it should be very much focused in Bible study and teaching, and so that people get more enriched in the gospel, more enriched in biblical, more enriched in Scripture, and more and dive deeper into Scriptures. But I also think that it could be much more broad than that. Like you can do anything with a small group. Basically, you can go to the movies together, or you can even start a small group ministry that is developed. Is solely to plan ministry events for the church, to plan outreach events, to plan if you want to say bake sales or potlucks or whatever you want to do. You can have a small group ministry devoted to those things. So it's not so narrow-minded as we might think. Yes, we should have that biblical center. Yes, we should have that scriptural teaching in small groups so people are being discipled. But I think that we can do a lot more with small groups too than just let's go to Sandy's house on Wednesday night and have some milk and cookies and do a scripture reading. I feel like they can be a lot more effective in working in the church and working in ministry than just for that purpose. So I think. So, I really want to argue that, like, why they should why churches should implement small groups, and why they should have them be a strong ministry in the church. And, the main purpose for a small group should be the main purpose of the church, which is to make disciples. That's the main purpose of any church, is to make disciples. And I feel like you can do that in a small group. Like you can, I feel like that is a really effective. Small groups are um, a really effective way of making disciples, because it breaks down the big, oh, I'm a small fish in a big pond type thing, and it really breaks down into a small, close knit community where you feel welcome and you feel, just happy to be there, in a place where you can connect and not be afraid of being yourself, or not being afraid of being transparent, being open, and you can just have like those that close knit group, where the people are just open and just showing love and showing brokenness and all this stuff. And it's just amazing to me. I've seen it multiple times. I've been a part of it multiple times, where it's just I feel more comfortable sometimes in those small little groups. And I feel like I like those little groups a little better sometimes than you know uh, you know than I'd say even congregation sometimes. I mean, yeah, I love going to church on Sunday, but I really like going to small group as well. Like, I just like doing that. I love doing small group. I love being a part of it, and I love seeing it do awesome things. And I've seen it do awesome things. So so the first reason I think that churches should start small groups is to allow your members to ask questions, to allow those people who are have constantly have questions about the Bible, about the pastor's sermon, all that stuff. I mean, there are a huge number of people that sit in Sunday morning service wishing they could stop the pastor during the sermon to ask him a question about something he said. I'm one of them. Like, I would love to talk to my and sometimes I do get to talk a little bit to my pastor on Sunday, because I know him very well. But I would love to be like, okay, well, what do you really mean by that? Or like, what are you trying, what, let's go deeper into what you said. Like, let's, flesh that out a little more. Like, I don't really understand that. Or like, can you explain that to me a little more? I'm not really grasping it, or something. And, just those things I wish I could do, and I'm sure, there's a lot of people out there that wish, this is a lot of our generation likes to ask a lot of questions. So, I think it's hard for a lot of people just to sit and kind of, especially, people who go to college, like, you're used to being able to ask the professor questions. So when someone's up there talking, or like, giving a sermon or whatnot, so when someone up there is talking to you, teaching you, basically, it's kind of hard for us not to be able to ask questions. And I feel like small groups are a really good way to have those people, ask really strong small group leaders these questions that they're wanting to ask on Sunday morning, and that they're wanting to ask during services on Sunday morning. I feel small groups open up a lot of that opportunity for those people. And they allow for they allow for this interaction that just like you cannot that does not compare on Sunday. A reaction with teacher and person, teacher and student type of thing, that kind of reaction. And it's that kind of interaction, not reaction, sorry. Small groups allow for that kind of interaction, to where it's like a classroom. Like, oh, can you explain this? Or like, I don't really understand this. Can we go into that a little more? And it's more of a classroom setting. It's more of a relaxed kind of informal thing, and I think people are more comfortable to do that, and they're with the more comfortable to ask questions, because they don't feel necessarily don't feel like dumb asking these questions or whatever, and it allows them to open up. Like I said before, allows them to open up more and talk about like, I'm really struggling with this. Like, it's really hard for me to grasp this concept of salvation, or it's really hard for me to grasp of this concept of grace. And like, so it's like hard, it's easier for people to open up and discuss those struggles they're having with understanding biblical doctrine and all that stuff. And it's easier for them to do that rather than in a larger group, in a congregation type setting. And hopefully all those things lead to a bigger, better understanding and a deeper understanding of the Bible. And that's ultimately, what we want. Like I said before, we want small groups to be an effective tool for making disciples, because that's what the church's purpose is. So, in doing small group, we want to be effective in making disciples, and training people to be, not necessarily training, but leading them into maturity, and having them, develop their own thing, maybe even do their own small group. We want them to, mature in Christ. We want them to grow in Christ. We want them to become have better understanding of the Bible and a richer, deeper knowledge of it, so that they can share it with other people. And so I feel like small groups really do that, and they're a really good, effective tool for making disciples. Yeah, and really, understand, you really want them, leave small group, or, move on to a different thing, after leaving small group, with just a better understanding and just becoming better disciples and continually changing, as this Christian life is all about, a continual change, not, you've arrived, but you're constantly working at it. You're constantly trying, to be more like Christ. And with doing the ministry in small groups, really that helps people understand. It's not just about reading the Bible, but also about living out and doing ministry and living as Christ lives. So I think that's why, and that's a little bit I'm talking about, the balance. It's not just let's go sit in a room for an hour or two each Wednesday or something like that. Let's go out and do ministry for small group. Let's go do street evangelism. Let's go do serve at a soup kitchen or something like that. And that's another way that people learn that this Christian life of being a disciple of Christ is about serving, and not just about sitting in rooms and sitting in pews, and just reading from a book. It's about living the book. So I think that's a really good, one of the really good ways why we should do small groups. Another reason is community. Strong community in church is very important to me. And one way to develop a community is to have small groups. We talked about in church in the 21st century, the fragmentation of society. I think that we should purposely fragment churches, in small groups. This is different small groups for young adults. There's small groups for older people. There's small groups for newlyweds. There's small groups for single mothers and stuff like that. And I really feel like we should fragment them, but it's not so much that we separate them all. I don't know, this is not going to make any sense. But it's not so much as that we should purposely put them in factions, in the church, oh, you're the young adults, so you're the single mothers, or you're the older people. It's not like that, but so that people can connect with other people. That's, the people can connect with something in common and find connections in these people that maybe some of the same struggles that they're going through, stuff like that. It's, it's amazing, the connections that you make in these a smaller group type setting, and because you find people, for me, going to a young adults group is awesome, because you find people, who are going to college and they know what the struggles of college are. So you talk about that and you connect with them on that. So it's a really good way to build strong community in the church, because you're building communities in a smaller group, and it's not so scary, and you actually have connection and stuff in common, and you can find connections, and then that fleshes itself out on Sunday morning, because everyone's together and they're all having a good time, and it's just all that stuff in small group during the week, just comes in oh man, I'm so excited to be here, I get to see everyone, all this stuff. It fleshes itself out on Sunday morning, and I feel like the church is missing a lot of that, because we're not doing anything during the week. It's church ends at Sunday ends at 11:45, and that's it. And then everyone else out their week, and we're not going to interact throughout the entire week. And I think it should be more than that. It should be, we're interacting throughout the entire week. We're building community throughout the entire week, and then when Sunday comes around, people are excited to go to church. And I think that small groups are a really good way to do that. they're a really good way to build community in the church, because you're building communities on a smaller basis, on a smaller foundation, a smaller, stronger foundation than trying to build a lot like a big foundation on, spread out people, just like nobody's together. But in small groups, you're trying, you're building a bunch of these foundations that are small, but they're strong, connected, they're very connected. And people just connect better in small groups, I think. Just in that setting is just a lot better for people to, like I said before, open up. Open up and, just be honest and real with each other. And I feel like another way, and I've really, this is something that's really dear with me, because we used to have a small group at my school. Like, we did a small group. My friend Christian led a small prayer group, and it was just like a small group. We came in, and maybe he read like a verse or two, and he taught us a little bit about the Bible, and he kind of like preached to us and stuff, and we would do maybe some worship or something like that. You never know. It was like just a small little thing, and then we would break off in prayer. I mean, like that, in that moment, in that group, like I really felt God's calling into ministry through that group, and I feel like I connected a lot with more of my classmates because of that. But I feel like prayer became way more important to me because of that group. Not necessarily prayer, like, because I know prayer is important. So not necessarily like personal prayer, but prayer in congregation, prayer in community like that. Praying over people became really important to me. And I feel like it became more intimate and more of like, a community thing, and more not, because I really never felt like communal prayer. So it's like, it's not necessarily that, I know my personal prayer is important. My personal prayer life is very important. But, like, I never really understood that, like, community prayer is not really that important. But to me, it's very important. Like, we should, I never really felt that, communal prayer was very important. Like, I just, like, something the pastor does before he does a sermon or whatever, like we do at the end of church or something. It wasn't really, like, something that, we need to do, pray in community. I never really felt like, sorry, that was my sister. I never really felt something that we need to do all the time. But, being in that small group and praying together really, like, it was really important. It started becoming really important to me because I saw the way that it affected people, and I saw the power that it had, and I saw the way God moved and worked through it. And I saw, how He did it. I saw how He did it in other people and how He did it in my life. And, just that, knowing that someone is taking up your burden with you and just taking it to God with you, that just changes everything. And my buddy Nate Boso, who came to Davis, and man, we had this one time where we were just sitting around, and me and him just sitting at, during that small group, and we were just praying over each other. Man, we just became closer as friends. Just knowing, my brother is next to me, just like it has his arm around me, just knowing that he's fighting this battle with me, and he's walking alongside me in it, and he's willing to, open up his soul and pour it out to God, and, pray on my behalf, and I'm willing to do the same for him, and just fight alongside him. It's just a really moving thing, and I feel like in small groups, when you do that, when you do community prayer and you do that small, intimate stuff, and people open up and they say, man, I'm really struggling with this, I need prayer for this, and people will just come around him in that small group and they just lay hands on him and they pray over him. Man, it's such a moving experience. It's such a amazing experience. It's so it's really like the most intimate thing you can do, with someone. I feel like, just because you're really pouring out your souls to each other and to God, and just that whole, it's just amazing. And I feel like small groups make that community prayer way more important, and I feel like it should be very important in the church. And I feel like, we should do more of that community stuff, the more of that community prayer in the church, and we need to have like those experiences in the church because it's amazing. It's amazing to go alongside your brother and pray with him. And it is, I'm not knocking on personal prayer too because you need that too. There's amazing stuff that comes out of that, but praying communally to God, like for people, is just phenomenal. I think small groups really allow that to happen because people feel more comfortable and they feel more comfortable, and they open up so you can pray for them and stuff. So I feel like small groups emphasize that importance of community and as physically and community spiritually. So in closing, small groups should be a very important ministry in the church because they develop understanding of the Bible, which leads to a changing character. They develop community, and they develop more meaningful prayer. These things are what basically make disciples, and that is, like I said at the beginning, that's the main purpose of the church, to make disciples. So small groups are a very important tool in fulfilling the purpose of the church and seeing it come to reality. And more churches implemented small groups and had dedicated small group leaders and dedicated small group curriculum that people can follow. We should see churches exploding with disciples and new converts every single week. There's a church in Greene, New York that is doing an amazing, they do amazing, like, as like a curriculum, like they do books, and it's like, there's some small group stuff and there's some like, one-on-one interactions, and they are just like booming. They baptize people almost every Sunday, and then they heard to seeing like a huge number of people come in because they're just for one, they're having people people in the church do it, not just pastors. So it's like so it's like contagious. It's like I love normal not just pastors and deacons and church leaders are doing it, but just normal people that attend the church are doing it and teaching these people, and they're loving it. So they're going out and doing it more and more, and it's just amazing what is happening. So I think churches should implement small groups more, and they should be, because it's a really effective tool for making disciples, and and that's the church's main purpose. So, all right, thank you.